This is now part 2 of chapter 4, and we're going to focus on the principles of exercise. Essentially, considering many of the thoughts and evidence-based considerations in developing one's own plan to improve or regain physical fitness. We're going to look at cardiovascular, muscular strength and endurance, flexibility, mind-body approaches, body composition, and to participate in any of just the mentioned activities safely. Okay, so let's get started on this second part. We're going to start with the principles of exercise, and we're going to look at some basic principles. The first principle is for exercise is overload principle. And the overload principle requires a person exercising to provide a greater stress or demand on the body than is usually accustomed to handling. So it kind of makes sense. Basically, if I'm used to lifting a coffee mug to my hand as my only exercise, then overload principle would say I need to use something of greater weight than my coffee cup to start. Now, progressive overloading gradually increases physical challenges and provides the benefits of exercise without the risks of injury. Always it's about gradual incrementation up, whether it be strength building, endurance building, flexibility. Don't try to do it all quickly and all at once. Break it into smaller pieces. The acronym FITT sums up the following 4 dimensions of progressive overloading: frequency, intensity, time in terms of duration, and type in terms of specificity. So when doing this form, fit, frequency, intensity, duration, and specificity. Now the second term we'll use is reverse principle, and I would imagine if you've been involved in exercise at all and then stopped and then got back at it again, you'd understand this one. Reverse principle: just as the body adapts to greater physical demands, it also adjusts to lower levels. Take too much time off, can lose significant amount of fitness you have gained. I've experienced this just recently, having set some goals to regain my fitness, running and strength training. As you get older, let me share a little something that if you think that when you're young and you exercise a lot and then stop for a couple of months and go back, you snap back pretty good and you get back to the levels pretty quickly. As you get older, that doesn't happen. I've been running since I was at least 12, 13, pretty much almost all my life. Chunks of time here and things taken off. And just recently I took 2 years off, which is a long time, and I'm appreciative of that. But it's taken me 5 months, and I'm still not where I was and anywhere near. I'm still quite a ways. But it reminds me that this reverse principle, definitely, you don't snap back. It doesn't just jump back. You have to keep working at it. C, or the third part, is recovery principle. It is important to follow follow the recovery principle so that the body can adapt to the loads you're putting on it. And basically, this just means is that you've got to give yourself an appropriate amount of rest between exercising muscles. You can train every day, but if you do, design your activity sessions that alternate muscle groups that are being worked on different days. When you do exercise, your muscles have what are known as micro tears. So as you exercise, whether that's running or lifting weights or flexibility, in order to get greater exertion, your muscles are developing, and part of what that is breaking down and rebuilding, which is building strength and mass. And so if you don't take days to rest, you're not giving your body an opportunity to do what it's supposed to do with the exercise that you've given it. So alternate days. How much exercise is enough? If you're not active at all, any physical activity will produce some benefits. Fitness and health experts agree that more exercise is better. But don't expect to start exercising if you've never done it before and expect immediate results. It's important to do small steps first and work your way and be patient with yourself. I can remember many times starting running and going too quickly, too soon, only to feel my legs seize up in the days that followed, getting so stiff that I couldn't go downstairs. be patient. One, if your body reacts to the exercise, be patient. It's getting used to doing something it hasn't done for a while, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but don't let that be the reason that you don't carry on. This is what's supposed to happen. Should I check with my doctor before I get started? Yes. On a general level, I would say yes. If you're unsure about whether or not you should begin physical activity or exercise program, you might want to complete the Physical Activity Readiness Questionnaire, the PARQ. You'll see this on table 4.2 on page 88. This will give you your own little heads up about how ready you are for physical activity and whether you should in fact go see the doctor right away to get some approvals on what you're doing. Okay, so if we're going to do some improving, let's start with cardiovascular fitness, what you might do in terms of cardiovascular fitness. A person with good cardiovascular endurance can engage in physical activity for a long time without becoming fatigued. And that's an important feature in terms of that sort of component. The exercise that improves cardiovascular endurances are referred to as aerobic exercise, or aerobic because they use the body, because the body uses much or slightly more oxygen than it takes in. And you know that you're doing that because as you start to run, your breathing goes from a normal breathing pattern to a more force where you're taking in a lot more oxygen, and that's because that's the cardiovascular element of building endurance. In aerobic exercise, aerobic exercise is this exchange of oxygen to build aerobic strength, cardiovascular strength. Anaerobic exercise is the amount of oxygen taken by the body cannot meet the demands of the activity. So if you run and run and run and run and you're not in great shape, you'll get to a point where your body will shut down because you're not getting enough oxygen, because you've put yourself into oxygen debt and asking your body to operate anaerobically, and it's not designed for that. It's designed to operate with oxygen. Oxygenated blood to flow through your body to keep you able to function. When you deplete your oxygen, you're operating anaerobically, and that's not as good. So, how do I know if I'm working hard enough? Well, there's a number of different ways you can do that for cardiovasculars. The target heart rate, it's a standard method. One, be sure that you're working hard enough to condition your heart and lungs, but not overdoing it. Use your pulse or your heart rate as a guide. Your resting heart rate is the pulsing of your heart when you're sitting or lying down on your back. Your target heart rate is a range between about 55 to 90. 90 is very high, of maximum heart rate in which you can get cardiovascular benefits from your training. And so it's important to take your resting heart rate. My resting heart rate is about, on any given day, 56, 57. And then this means that when I'm running, I can keep track of my heart rate. Depending upon how hard I want to work, I need to keep it at 55% more to 90% more of my maximum. And there's a formula for that, and you'll find that in your textbook. If you don't exercise intensely enough to raise your heart rate at least this high, your heart and lungs won't benefit from the workout. If you push too hard and the exercise at or near your absolute maximum heart rate, you run the risk of placing too great a burden on your heart. Now, more than likely, you'll stop before you ever get to that range because it'll hurt, it'll be uncomfortable. For most people, exercising at the lower end of the target heart rate range for a long time is more beneficial than exercising at higher end of the range for short periods of time. Okay, there's another method that's used, an alternative method for target heart rate. It's called the Covovian method. Some fitness experts believe that that this method provides a more accurate heart rate for training. This method incorporates heart rate reserve, which is the maximum heart rate, and your resting heart rate. And again, you'll find this in your textbook as a way of getting a little heads up on how to do that. And then there's a third option, and this is the rating of persistent exertion, the RPE. The RPE is a self-assessment scale that rates symptoms of exertion such as breathlessness and fatigue. You can use the RPE scale to describe your sensation of effort while exercising and gauge how hard you're working. This is a more subjective assessment, but it is one way that you can get at some information around your degree of effort. So how do I design an aerobic workout? Now these are some general guidelines, okay? First is you do a warm-up. You prepare your cardiovascular system for the workout. Speed up the blood flow of your lungs and increase the temperature and elasticity of your muscles and connective tissues. You start by walking briskly for about 5 minutes, follow this with about 5 minutes of a simple strength, balance, or stretching exercise. The aerobic activity, the key components are intensity and duration, about 150 minutes per week. And then the third part is cool down. You should walk at least 5 to 10 minutes at a comfortable pace before you end your workout. All my workouts end up with a short walk, just to sort of lower the heart rate, relax your breathing, remind your muscles that we're done. And then your long-term fitness plans, one of the most common mistakes people make is to push too hard too fast, and I've mentioned that before, and it's a common risk. Rather, think of it as a series of phases from beginning to the progression and then to the maintenance. Take your time, be patient with yourself. All right, let's begin with a walking program, say. Walking continues to be the most popular physical activity in Canada. Walking may be the perfect exercise. It can lower heart disease. Treadmills are a good alternative to outdoor walks. There's all sorts of YouTube channels that you can get of people doing exercises on trails that you can watch while you're on a treadmill. It makes it a little bit more interesting. Some studies suggest that stepping 10,000 steps a day can be a beneficial way to increase heart health, lose weight, and feel healthier. The pedometer, or one of the numerous activity trackers, your Fitbit, can be used to measure steps taken per day. You can get all sorts of apps that will allow your smart device to track things like steps and distance and GPS. And I think if you're going to do the assignment A, make sure you have some means of which you can do tracking of your goals so it's more manageable and it meets the criteria for the assignment better if you can produce digital data that you can add to your assignment. Now, if you're going to look at running or jogging, the difference between jogging and running is just speed. Jogging is slower, running is generally a little faster. If your goal is to enhance aerobic fitness, long, slow distances in terms of running is best. It's not how fast you go. My long runs are 6-7 miles, and I will do them at about 7 to 7.5 minutes per kilometer. Very reasonable, slow, manageable, allows me to do the long run where it's not how fast you do it's more about how much time you spend on your feet moving in a running motion. If I'm looking to improve speed, I'll look at interval training, which consists of repeated hard runs over a certain distance with intervals of relaxed jogging in between. So in interval training, you might go for, say, 5 miles or 8K. You'll do a 2K warm-up, and then you run quickly for, say, half a K, and then you jog for another half a K, and you repeat until you've completed 6K. And then you do a 2K cool down. There's an example of using your aerobic fitness by doing interval training. If you've been sedentary, it is best to launch a walking program before attempting a jog or a run program. I hope by now that sounds kind of obvious. So other aerobic activities you could participate in include aerobic dance or fitness classes, cardio kickboxing, extra gaming, HITT, spinning classes, step training, bench aerobics, stair climbing, swimming. There's a lot of things that one can do in this area of aerobic activity. Anything that increases your heart rate is a good aerobic exercise. Just manage it. All right, let's look at muscular strength and endurance. Muscular strength and endurance workouts are important because they enable muscles to work efficiently and reliably. Conditioned muscles function more smoothly and contract more vigorously and with less effort. With exercise, muscle tissue becomes firmer and can withstand much more strain, the results of toughening the sheath protecting the muscle and developing more connective tissue within the muscle. As mentioned earlier, the two dimensions of muscular fitness are strength and endurance. Prolonged exercises prepare the muscles for sustained work by improving the circulation of blood in the tissues. The number of tiny blood vessels, called capillaries, increase by as much as 50% during regular exercising of muscles. Existing capillaries open wider so that the total circulation increases by as much as 400%, thus providing the muscles with a much greater supply of nutrients. Really important. The best way to reduce your body fat is to add muscle strength exercises to your workout. And again, small incremental changes, but these are the kinds of changes that make the best impact. So if we look at muscles, we can also consider muscles at work in terms of what happens when they're working. The only way to develop muscles is through a principle called overloading. We've touched on that with cardiovascular. As you train, you have to increase the number of repetitions or the amount of resistance gradually and work the muscles to temporary fatigue. You need to exercise differently for strength than for endurance, and that just makes sense. Isometric exercises are those in which you push or pull against an immovable object, with each muscle contraction being held for 5 to 8 seconds and being repeated for 5 to 10 times a day. So isometric would be if you push against the wall, if you pull against something that doesn't move, and you hold it, and hold it, and hold it, and then release. Okay? The isotonic contraction, this involves dynamic muscle movement against constant resistance several times. Contracting the muscles constitutes the concentric phase, and lowering the weight represents eccentric phase to the lift. And then the isokinetic exercises, this uses special machines to provide resistance, overload the muscles throughout the entire range of motion. So these are pretty, you'll find most of these resources in most gyms that will enable you. You should ask for insistence on how to use equipment to make sure you're using it effectively, and that you'll find downstairs in your gym as well. So how do I design a muscle workout? Well, workouts with weights should exercise your body's primary muscle groups, the deltoids, pectorals, triceps, biceps, quadriceps, hamstrings, gluteus maximus, trapezius, and rhomboids, and the abdomen. So that just works the whole body, and that's what your target should be. Again, you may need the assistance of a trainer to offer you some insights. A weight training program is made up of both reps, the single performance of exercise, such as lifting 20 kilogram one time, that's a rep, and sets, the number of repetitions in doing the same movement. So you should be starting with low reps and low repetitions, low reps and low sets to begin, and then increasing the sets before you start increasing the reps. Core strength conditioning refers to the ability of the muscles to support your spine and keep your body stable and balanced. And the types of exercise programs such as yoga, Pilates, and the use of exercise balls and Bosu balls and balance boards provide muscle strength and endurance workouts too. That balance strength is very important to build smaller muscles, the stabilizers as they're known. All right, let's move to flexibility. Genetics, age, sex, body composition are all influences in how flexible we're going to be. Static stretching involves the gradual stretch held for short periods of time. So if you're doing a quad stretch and you grab your ankle and pull it behind, That's a stretch that when you hold it for a short period of time and then release it is a static stretching. In PNF stretching, your own body, a partner, gravity, or weight serves as the external force or resistance to help your joints move through their range of motion. This can be passive or active. Ballistic stretching or dynamic stretching is characterized by rapid bouncing movements such as a series of up and down bobs as you try again and again to touch your toes with your hands. So I wouldn't recommend using the ballistic stretching to begin. It's something that you would move towards as you develop more capacity for stretching. Now, dynamic stretching involves controlled movements that gradually increase your reach and speed of movement. Now, these are all different variations about flexibility, and all flexibility training ought to be done slowly and gradually, like muscular and like cardiovascular. Some of the benefits of flexibility: well, prevention of injuries. Flexibility training stretches muscles and increases the elasticity of joints, which if you're going to put load on joints, stretching becomes very important. Relief of muscle strain. Stretching helps relieve muscle tension and enables you to move more efficiently. Relaxation. Flexibility exercises are great stress relievers. Better athletic performance, as good flexibility allows for more efficient movement and exertion of more force through a greater range of motion. Flexibility is a great benefit. It relieves soreness after exercises. Many people develop a delay onset muscle soreness 1 or 2 days after they work out. And you may find this if you just start your first workout program. You may find a day or two later you're feeling a little stiff. Stretching can help prevent that. Improve posture. Stretching the chest, the muscles can help you sit up straight. So if we're going to begin stretching and warming up, stretching is a specific activity intended to elongate the muscles and keep joints limber, and the value of stretching varies with different activities. One of the best times to stretch is after an aerobic exercise. My stretching I do is a little less at the beginning of a run, more so at the end of the run, when muscles are already well warmed up and ready to be lengthened again. All right, the mind-body approach. Here you're looking at a variety of different things. Many of you are probably identified, you're familiar with Pilates. This is used by dancers for deep body conditioning and injury rehabilitation. It improves flexibility. It improves flexibility and joint mobility and strengthens the core by developing pelvic stability and abdominal control. If you're getting involved in many activities, in particular running, getting good core development is important to keep your hips stable and over your knees so they aren't bobbing all over the place, making it difficult to be an efficient runner. Tai Chi. Tai Chi is a form of mind-body exercise where it gently works muscles, it focuses concentration, and makes improvement in the flow of Qi, the vital life energy that sustains health. It's described as meditation in motion. Some of you may not be able to meditate because it's requiring you to remain too still. Tai Chi might be a nice meditation to do where you involve movement. Yoga consists of various breathing, stretching, and strengthening exercises that unite all aspects of a person. It may lead to improved flexibility, protection of joints, stronger and denser bones, enhanced circulation, lower levels of stress hormone cortisol, and improved balance, all of which are good for the general health and benefit of anybody. Body composition. When we look at this refers to the amount of fat versus the amount of lean tissue in our body. The best way to maintain a healthy body composition is to combine regular physical activity with good nutrition, both of which we are going to cover in this class. And I hope that you take advantage of this for your own benefit, because this is something that's going to make a huge difference in all of our lives for life. Now, safe and healthy workouts. Let's explore this. How can I prevent injuries? Well, some of the more acute injuries, sprains, bruises, pulled muscles, are the result of sudden trauma, oftentimes because we tried to do too much too soon. Overuse injuries are the result of overdoing a repetitive activity to prevent injuries and other exercise-related problems. You use common sense and take appropriate precautions, starting slowly when you begin any new physical activity is the best strategy. Now, one of the things some of us might be more susceptible to is overtraining. Overtraining, or pushing ourselves to work too intensely, too frequently, causes about half of all people to drop out of exercise programs within 6 months. Signs of overdoing it include persistent muscle soreness, frequent injuries, unintended weight loss, nervousness, and the inability to relax. Avoid overtraining. So you get a little injury. Take care of injuries. If you have exercise injury, follow the PRICE technique, P-R-I-C-E. P, protect the area with an elastic, wrap, sling, splint, cane, crutches, air cast, and rest to promote tissue healing. If you've twisted an ankle, if you've bruised a muscle, take care. Ice the area immediately, even if you're seeking medical help. Compress the area with an elastic bandage until swelling stops. Elevate the area above your heart, especially at night. Now, here we are in the winter, so beware of the cold. Thinking about temperature. Prevention is the wisest approach. Heat, cold problems when you're exercising. Heat. Always wear as little as possible when exercising in hot weather. Drink plenty of fluids. Drinking fluids if you're doing longer runs or bigger activities outdoor that have electrolytes balances. Watch for the early signs of heat problems. In the cold, protect yourself from the cold weather by covering up as much of the body as possible, but don't overdress. Okay. I hope this has been helpful. This has been part 1, looking at fitness, and in particular, athletic fitness. Let's go on to part 2.